Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers and sovereign thinkers. This is LO3's newest podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Thursday, December 22nd, 2016. Yeah, just to let all you folks know, tomorrow will be the 103rd anniversary of the treasonous so-called Communist Manifesto legacy or ideology. The Federal Reserve Act was passed. So it was a little cloudy. People like chilling. Looks like a lot of folks are heading traveling out for the holidays. So I'm just lounging out. A little cloudy, cool compared to yesterday. Dog's hanging out with me. Some boats by the river. Looks like a train be coming by. So if you hear it, don't panic. Everything's under control. Yeah, so I like same old song and dance. Like may have a suspect for what happened in Germany with the whole Christmas market ordeal with running over all these folks. So and lots of other things are happening as well. But I'm gonna keep this one. I'm not gonna be too long. So just sit back, chill, and enjoy. And there's a bridge too. So if you hear the motor for the boat, that's okay. I'm outside. Go what the hell. All right. Well, first thing we'll start off. This is from activistpost.com. Originally, it's from the 10th Amendment Center. It says here Texas bill takes on policing for profit via asset forfeiture. Closes federal loophole by Mike Meharry. And as it reads here, a bill pre-filed in the Texas Senate for the 2017 legislative session would reform the state's asset forfeiture laws to prohibit the state from taking property without criminal conviction in most cases. The legislation also takes on federal forfeiture programs by banning prosecutors from circumventing state laws by passing cases off to the feds in most situations. Senator Connie Burton, Republican from Fort Worth, pre-filed Senate Bill 380 on December 20th. The legislation would reform Texas law by requiring a criminal conviction before prosecutors could proceed with asset forfeiture. Civil forfeiture would only be allowed if the property owner is unavailable or does not claim for the property. Under current law, the state can seize assets even if a person is never found guilty of a crime or even arrested. SB 380 would also prohibit a state and local law enforcement from receiving proceeds from forfeited property. And here's the train horn coming through. Hang tight. It's going to keep going. All right. Continue on here. All funds will go to the county treasurer. Currently, up to 70% of asset forfeiture proceeds go directly to law enforcement agency budgets, and this practice would significantly curb the policing for profit motive inherited in the current law. Addresses federal program. SB 380 also closes a loophole that allows prosecutors to bypass more stringent state asset forfeiture laws by passing cases off to the federal government under the equitable sharing forfeiture program. The proposed law would specifically prohibit this practice in most cases. A law enforcement agency or attorney representing the state may not directly or indirectly transfer seized property to any federal law enforcement authority or other federal agency unless, one, the value of seized property exceeds $50,000, and two, the attorney representing the state determines that A, the activity giving rise onto the investigation or seizure is interstate in nature and sufficiently complex to justify the transfer, or B, the seized property may only be forfeited under federal law. In other words, the legislation does not attempt to interfere with federally initiated forfeiture, but ban state and local police from passing off their cases to federal jurisdiction in most situations. So there's some good things about this. I'll continue on. The inclusion or provisions barring state and local law enforcement agencies from passing off cases to the feds is particularly important. In several states with strict asset forfeiture laws, prosecutors have done just that. By placing the case under federal jurisdiction, law enforcement can bypass the need for conviction under state law and collect the 80% of the proceeds from forfeited assets via federal equitable sharing program. For example, the California previously had some of the strongest state-level restrictions on civil asset forfeiture in the country, but law enforcement would often bypass the state restrictions by partnering with the federal asset forfeiture program known as equitable sharing. There's a link. There's a lot of links for this. You can check it out yourselves, friends. Under these arrangements, state officials would simply hand over forfeiture prosecutions to the federal government and then receive up to 8% of the proceeds, even what state law banned or limited the practice. So it's still, hey, let's make a deal. According to a report by the Institute for Justice, Police for Profit, California ranked dead last of all states in the country between 2000 and 2013 as the worst offender. During the 2016 legislative session, the state closed the loophole. As the 10th Amendment Center previously reported, the federal government inserted itself into asset forfeiture debate in California. The feds clearly want the policy to continue. Why? We can only guess. Perhaps the feds recognize paying state and local police agencies directly in cash for handling their enforcement would reveal their weakness. After all, the federal government would find it nearly impossible to prosecute its unconstitutional war on drugs without state and local assistance. Asset forfeiture, equitable sharing provides a pipeline the feds use to incentivize state and local police to serve as a de facto arms of the federal government by funneling billions of dollars into their budgets. Next, SB 380 will assign it to a committee once the regular session begins in January. Well, I can say this. So far, so good. I like it. It's time to fight back states' rights, and even they have to honor the Texas Constitution. On this bill, I can say they're doing it. Not going to be perfect, but it's a lot better than before, and every state in the union should follow through. And I know Florida did theirs, which is still steps, and I really was very gratified on that. But it could be better, absolutely. This is what states' rights are about. 10th Amendment is essential, which the Tinkleberries from the mainstream news don't want you to know. They want you to be dumb, stagnant, happy, think the federal government knows everything. And you go, okay, boss, I will row down to Washington, D.C. So this is why, my friends, people in the Lone Star State should take the initiative and petition and say, yes, support this bill through the subcommittees and all that and make it happen. I can see the governor sign that into law. That would be awesome. Drive the feds crazy. Because remember, like I said before, they need us more we need them. Plain and simple. And anyone can take the initiative on making it happen. Because the fact is, if you complain and don't take actions, then shut up. If you do take the initiative on petitioning, supporting bills like this, then you're doing something about it. You are part of the information war. Okay, so next one here came from the SHTFplan.com. It originally came from altmarket.com. It says here, the whole global economy could be in shambles. Fed initiate crisis looms over Trump presidency. This was originally written by Brennan Smith. It says here, this confrontation between the Federal Reserve and Donald Trump, painted as a populist outsider willing to destabilize the system, has been brewing for some time. SHTF has reported many times on the double game of timing rate hikes to score politics points, and now to dump a cycle that has been long overdue for a crash. Unfortunately, these are fundamentals at work. See my dogs right here. Good. Fundamentals at work, and where the heck I'm at. Okay, right there. The question now is how badly it will drag on the economy, and what the optics and that downturn could be, i.e., will Trump be vilified, and to what degree? It is more prudent than ever to prepare for a potential downturn and attempt to insulate yourself from what could be a prolonged economic collapse. If good times come instead, then enjoy them with knowledge that your family was prepared to endure even the worst of what may come. It says here, the Federal Reserve initiates endgame as Trump heads to White House. Brandon Smith once again. For years, alternative economic analysis have been warning that the miraculous rise in U.S. stock markets has been the symptom of wider central bank intervention, and that This will result in dire future consequences. We've heard endless lies and rationalizations as to why this could not be so and why the U.S. recovery is real. And at the beginning of 2016, the former head of Dallas branch of the Federal Reserve crushed all the skeptics and vindicated our position in an interview with CNBC where he stated, what the Fed did, I was part of that group, is we front loaded a tremendous market rally starting in 2009. It's sort of what I call the reverse wimpy factor. Give me two hamburgers today, one for one tomorrow. I'm not surprised that almost every index you can look at was down significantly, referring to the results in the stock market after the Fed raised rates in December. Fisher continued his warning through his predictions, in my view, are widely conservative or deliberately muted. I was warning my colleagues, don't go wobbly if we have a 10 to 20% correction at some point. Everybody you talk to has been warning that these markets are heavily priced. Here is the issue. Stocks are mostly meaningless factor when considering the economic health of a nation. Equities are a casino based on nothing but the luck of a draw when it comes to news headlines, central banker statements, and algorithmic computers. Today, as Fisher openly admitted, stocks are purely manipulated indicator representing nothing but the amount of stimulus central banks are willing to pour them into their various channels. Even with the incredible monetary support pooled together by international franchisers, returns of equities investments continue to remain mostly flat. It would seem that the propping up of indexes like the Dow has been only for the sake of keeping up appearances. For many people, revenue is barely being generated. Unfortunately, the majority of the Americans do not care to educate themselves on the finer point of finance. Their only relation to the health of the economy is their daily glance at the Dow. If it is green or at all-time high, they assume that is all well, even if their gut is telling them something's not quite right. The elites that stand at the helm of the Federal Reserve understand this dynamic very well. They are not stupid. They know that the whole of the global economy could be in shambles, but as long as stocks remain positive, the masses will continue to ignore reality until the flames of destabilization are at their very doorsteps. With this fact in mind, one might think that the Fed would consider it their best interest to keep stimulus measures operating indefinitely, but that is not what they are doing. In fact, the Fed, along with other central banks, like the ECB, has been slowly peeling back pillars of support for markets that have been in place since 2008 to 2009 and leave the system open to a crisis event that should have been dealt with years ago. I examined this process of deliberate destabilization in my article, The Global Economic Reset Has Begun. In that piece, I outlined three major pillars holding up the U.S. market system in certain parts of our economy and how they were being systematically removed. The first pillar was the use of bailouts and quantitative easing measures. These were diminished through the implementation of the Fed taper, which I predicted would happen 3 months prior to that year. The second pillar was use of near zero interest rates, which allowed numerous banks and corporations to access low cost and no cost overnight loans from the Fed. These companies then used these loans in large part of support a never ending program of stock buybacks, which reduced the stock pool and artificially boosted the values of the remaining stocks. I predicted in August of 2015 that the Fed would hike interest rates and that this would be the beginning of the end for the stock buyback bonanza. The Fed hiked rates in December of that year. This process of removing backdoor manipulation through low interest rates should be our main concern right now. Early in 2016, I believe that the Fed would reach a position in which it will finally unleash a series of rate hikes. I don't think they would be so blatant as to wait until right after the U.S. presidential election to do so. I was wrong. This is why I eventually predicted the launch of a series of rate hikes starting right after the Donald Trump election in my article, World Suffers from Trump Shell Shock. Here's what will happen next. The Fed has now once again hiked interest rates with assertions that they will be accelerating such hikes throughout 2017. As I have been arguing for most of the past year, the election of Donald Trump was inevitable, would precede a triggering of the final stage of our ongoing economic crisis. I came to realize that the Fed's timing of the latest rate hike is highly strategic. Not only does it set the stage for a series of hikes that will crush U.S. stock markets this coming year and finally shock the public out of their fiscal stupor, but it also maneuvers the crisis right into the lap of Donald Trump and the conservative movements that support him. Beyond this, it perpetuates an increasing left-right division in America. Think about it. During the fiscal crisis under Trump, triggering by accumulating Fed rate hikes, liberals will immediately set upon Trump as the culprit, while conservatives will immediately defend Trump as a victim of Federal Reserve meddling. The Federal Reserve and the mainstream media are already composing the narrative by stating that Trump's potential economic policies and a widened budget deficit will require higher rates at a faster pace in order to be accommodated. I've heard arguments from some of this tactic would simply not work, that people will never buy a narrative in which Trump and the conservatives are blamed for a market collapse that was at least 8 years in the making. I have to say this view is incredibly naive. I understand why people would want to embrace the notion that the public is as savvy as the liberty movement when looking at economic events, but this simply isn't reality. A large portion of the U.S. population identifies with the left end of the political spectrum. One moment here. We have already seen how they react in the face of a Trump election win. They are predisposed to believe that Trump is responsible for a market crash regardless of the facts. Not to mention, much of the rest of the world is economically ignorant and will likely jump on any conservative bandwagon during the crisis as well. But the real master stroke of this strategy on the part of the elites is that it creates the perfect platform for destruction of the US dollar world reserve status. Third and final pillar I mentioned a month ago that is supporting our economic system. Imagine the Fed's rate hike frenzy sparks an open feud between the central bank and Trump. Some people might say, good, shut the bastards down. However, this is exactly what the elites want. With the Feds at odds with the President of the U.S., faith in the U.S. dollar will plummet, its world reserve status will be destroyed, and instead of being blamed on central banks, the majority of the people around the world will claim it was the fault of Trump. With a historically sufficient excuse for the end of dollar dominance in hand, the elites can move forward with their great global reset, which includes the replacement of the dollar with the IMF special drawing rights as a go-to reserve currency mechanism. The SDR basket is a essential bridge in the formation of a single global monetary authority and a true single global currency. I believe that the Fed will not only continue hiking interest rates throughout 2017, but that some of these rate hikes may be larger than many people expect, 50 basis points or more. I believe this will be designed to foster extreme tension between the executive branch and the central bank. A few months ago, I would have said that Trump may or may not be aware of this dynamic and the potential that he is a scapegoat. Now that I have seen Trump's cabinet pick, which include neocon and Goldman Sachs alumni, I have a little doubt that he is fully cognizant of the plan. I will be writing more on the issue of Trump as a Trojan horse in my next article. In the meantime, I would point out that all the elements of psychological support for stock markets will also disappear in the face of Trump versus establishment narrative. All those leftist media outlets cherry picking economic stats and telling half truths to support the recovery lie now have no reason to continue cheerleading for the economy. I expect that propaganda rags like Reuters and Bloomberg will quickly change their tune with Trump in the Oval Office. and begin a consistent course of negative financial data. Not only will the Fed remove all support from the system, but the mainstream media will be pounding day traders with the kind of doom and gloom headlines that they have been criticizing us for over the years. Make no mistake, the election of Trump may have some in the liberty movement ready to pack up their preps and forget about how any national crisis in their lifetime. But the truth is, vigilance is needed now more than ever. I said it before the election, and I'll say it today. Don't get comfortable. These times are about to get even more interesting, and I have to agree with Mr. Smith on that, and expect Donald Trump to be the scapegoat for the collapse. And you're talking to an individual who's not a big fan of his or supporter. I do examine things a lot more thorough, and we've been seeing this a lot. I mean, a lot of us folks out here examine this for a very long time. So you have to always see things in a bigger picture. Now I'm going to be adding a link here for that. It says blaming Trump for the inevitable economic collapse. That was done by Mike Adams from the Natural News. He did it for News Target, and it's a real good video, and I recommend everyone check it out because he explains it too in his own way that this is very dangerous. So definitely check it out. It's like 16 minutes, like close to 16 minutes long, and he hits it out of the ballpark as well. You have to, like I said, you have to always examine things a lot more thorough, and that is it for that aspect of it. Okay, I'm just like browsing around here. Next one is by Derek Bros, and he's an investigative reporter. He's from Houston Free Thinkers and all that. And this one's entitled "Judicial Watchdog Official Claims He Was Fired for a Complaint Against Judge in Child Custody Case." Derek Bros wrote here, the former head of Michigan Judicial Watchdog Board has filed a lawsuit alleging that he was fired for attempting to file a formal complaint against a judge who controversially sent three children to a juvenile detention center. Paul J. Fischer joined Michigan's Judicial Tenure Commission in January 2001. Fischer joined the state's independent judicial disciplinary agency that's supposed to watch over about 600 judges. The commission can investigate claims of misconduct and make recommendations to the Michigan Supreme Court. By the time Fischer was fired in September, he was the JTC's executive director and general counsel. He's now suing the state and the commission with allegations that he was targeted for holding a judge accountable. A judge in question is Judge Lisa Garcia of the Oakland County Circuit Court. In June of 2015, Judge Garcia's actions became a national story after she found three children between the age of 9 and 13 in contempt of court and sentenced them to a juvenile detention center for 17 days. Judge Garcia said the children were being punished for refusing to have a healthy relationship with their father. The actions of Judge Garcia received worldwide attention, including a video of the June 24, 2015 hearing going viral, exposing Judge Garcia's egregious behavior on a national scale and leading many media commentators to characterize her conduct as highly abusive toward the minor children, the complaint states. According to Fischer, he was punished for doing what he was legally required to do as part of the commission. He claimed that on July 10, 2015, he sent an email to JCC members asking for an informal investigation into Judge Garcia's conduct. Although the investigation was eventually approved, Fischer says he faced pushback from other commissioners who support the judge. Courthouse News reports after a formal complaint was filed, about 50 people identifying themselves as lawyers sent a document and press release supporting Judge Garcia. Their support of the judge became a topic of discussion at the JTC's January 11, 2016 meeting, according to Fischer's lawsuit. Commissioner articulated and seemed to adopt the construct argued by the supporting lawyers that George Garcia was a good judge who had a bad day, the complaint states. Fisher claims the JTC holding executive meetings without him and avoiding discussing the issue with him. Soon after, the Michigan Supreme Court appointed retired Wayne County Court Second Court Judge Daniel Ryan to oversee the investigation. On July 1st, 2016, Ryan issued a 34-page report confirming that Judge Garcia was guilty of judicial misconduct. Fisher called on the JTC to affirm the findings and recommended 9 months of unpaid suspension and $12,000 fine. Instead, Fisher says he was fired on September 12th as a retaliation. Fisher was replaced by Glenn Page, JTC staff attorney, in November. Under Page's interim watch, the JTC found that Garcia lied in responses to questions about the case and recommended she publicly censured and suspended 30 days. The JTC said that Garcia's answers may have been inaccurate and somewhat misleading, but she did not make intentionally false statements, reports the Detroit Free Press. The commission also said the judge crossed the line from proper demeanor to caustic abuse. The Michigan Supreme Court can now choose to accept or reject the recommendations. Commission Chairman Judge David Sawyer said the case Garcia was dealing with was difficult and involved the complicated issues of parental rights. Judge Sawyer did not elaborate as to whether the difficulties of the case justify locking up children who do not want to live with one parent. Unfortunately, this is just another example of how the state's involvement in our lives, especially in relation to children, is typically going to end badly. Well, I'll just gotta say this. Fisher, if he has plenty of ammunition that has merit, sue those bastards to kingdom come. Plain and simple. And it is real disgusting when you got the state trying to get involved on families. Parents gotta be strong, iron willing, and give their kids the truth. To have them dilly down on garbage. I'm just giving my intake. Responsibility for the responsible is one of them. What the late Anton LaVey has to say, and even honor your mother and father. Doesn't matter if you believe in God or not, or if you believe in the Bible. It says the author wrote that in there as well. I believe it was Moses, if I'm correct. I could be mistaken. But the whole thing is, my friends, when you come to the state, knows best. Just flush it down the toilet, you know? Well, hopefully, I say Mr. Fisher, justice will be served for him. And as long as he's got plenty of merit to back it up, soothe their behinds into oblivion. Make sure and hope for the best for them and everyone else. If you're especially living in Michigan, support them. All right. Next one here is the Anti-Media from antimedia.org. Came out a couple of days ago. It says here, Yemen in chaos. 1,000 children died in a week while world ignores U.S.-backed war. It was written by Mr. Me, if I'm correct, right? Yeah. All right. As it says here, Yemen is on the verge of collapse after poverty, disease, exacerbated by war, and a lack of resources have ravaged the country. Save the Children warned on Tuesday that tens of thousands of children were dying with the healthcare system crumbling as a result of a scarce resources and the flight of medical staff. At least 1,219 children have so far died as a direct result of the fighting between a Saudi-led coalition and Houthi rebels, but the lack of medical supplies and staff is currently causing an additional 10,000 preventable deaths per year. One moment. Lay down. My dog saw some attractive bitch. Female dog, that is. Even before the war, tens of thousands of Yemeni children were dying of preventable causes, said Edward Santiago, Save the Children's Yemen's country director. But now the situation is much worse, and an estimated 1,000 children are dying every week from preventable killers like diarrhea, malnutrition, respiratory tract infections, with parents losing their jobs and livelihoods owing to the chaos of the war. Many told us they have to sell belongings like jewelry, vehicles, and gas canisters, and land just to be able to afford a trip to the hospital, while others have taken out loans. Once they often can't afford the cost of the medicines their children urgently need, while many other parents find the facility just does not have life-saving medicines. 86% of people in Yemen are thought to be in need of humanitarian aid, a state which a new report by the European Council on Foreign Relations described as a borderline famine. The report said that the children of Yemen were potentially a lost generation due to illness, poverty, and lack of education, and will provide a vital breeding ground for militant groups such as Al Qaeda and Islamic State, both of whom have a foothold in Yemen. Could we say New World Order? Absolutely. 19 million people are living without safe drinking water, and 14.1 million are without food security. $56 million pledged by the EU barely touches the $1.63 billion gap that needs to be bridged in order meet Yemen's aid needs. Yemen has received a fraction of the international attention accorded to Syria, said the report's authors Adam Barron. But in many ways, what's happening is now worse than in Syria in terms of both humanitarian situation and the vacuum of state control that is giving space to the extremist groups. The country is rapidly reaching a point of total anarchy and state failure, which make it impossible for Europe to ignore, not least because of the possible wave of Yemeni refugees that could seek shelter on European shores. Yemen's 20-month-old conflict has directly killed more than 7,000 people and wounded nearly 37,000, according to the United Nations. The Houthis overran the capital, Sana'a, and other parts of the impoverished country in September 2014, prompting a U.S.-backed, Saudi-led Arab military coalition to intervene 6 months later in support of the president. This is pretty damn blasphemous, okay? And condemn this with a passion. You're not hearing about this, okay? And at least a handful of us, including people actually reporting this, taking the initiative to share this, folks, with you because you have the right to know what the hell is going on. When are we gonna stop bombing innocent people? That's what comes down to it. Shouldn't be so. The United States should not be supporting these damn wars. Completely unacceptable. Our tax dollars are being, I say, extorted. It's double extortion, I would say. And like I say, Saudi Arabia, the kingdom don't give a damn about them either. More of a masquerade, propaganda matrix. Bomb them into oblivion. Who gives a damn about them? And establish their one world order, which, as you say, the kingdom of Saudi Arabia is part of it as well. This is why, my friends, when people want to go war hungry, I want those bastards and ungrateful women that manifest over this. You go on the front, let's see how tough you are. I have no shame calling out politicians. Leave a message on their answer machine and said, "You support these sanctions? You go on the front line." Doesn't matter what party they're in, Democrat, or Republicans. If you're an imperialist, you want sanctions, you go on the front line. Sick of your crap anyway. Pathetic. So this is why, my friends, we gotta be vigilant. We gotta stop this foreign aid because that's part of, they call it the redistribution of wealth. Man, some people are like, oh, socialism, we gotta stop. We can't do redistribution of wealth. That includes foreign aid. So all you folks that support it, oh, support Israel, let's fund Israel. No, that's called redistribution of wealth. That's all I gotta say. It's just an example. All right. Finally, I made a promise on my last episode about the freedom of the press. Eric Ortiz wrote this, and it was actually documented on the 13th, so of December. But I did say I'll look at it after to protect the free press. It says here how to solve the news business problem with mobile first newsrooms. And of course, this is part of the three-part series of reinventing journalism in a mobile age. Part one, look at the fake news problem, how we protect freedom of the press and the post. The journalism industry needs to refocus on local news. The way to do this is by building mobile-first grassroots newsrooms. These newsrooms can democratize news coverage, engage community members, and generating new revenue streams. And what you're hearing right now is a weed eater or a blower, right? Yeah, all right. Trimmer. That's okay. It's called landscaping, right? Ha ha ha. All right, I'll continue on here. Community newsrooms exist, but few mobile first. Even fewer have proven successful. Mobile has transformed news productions, distribution, and monetization. Our model provides local media with a roadmap. This is how the process works. Step one, production. Local news publishers go mobile first. That means train editorial staff on how to use mobile reporting tools and using their primary work outside the office, creating mobile multimedia stories on smartphones. Journalists can cover news and events as individuals and collaborate in teams. That is true. Once journalists are proficient mobile reporters and storytellers, organize community workshops, and train community members on how to use mobile reporting and storytelling tools. Teach community members the fundamental of journalism, effective reporting, who, what, why, when, where, and how, media production, photo, video, audio, FOIA requests, and ethics. After community members are trained, give them a mobile journalism test. Once they pass the test, they become trusted community sources. As trusted news sources, they are part of the local mobile newsroom and can cover stories in the community as journalists do. Citizens already are committing active journalism with smartphones and are eager to become more active participants. They just need some guidance and structure to be more effective. Imagine if professional journalists could train 1% of the 2.5 billion global smartphone users. That 2.5 million new community reporters and storytellers around the world. An army of trusted sources capable of reporting and telling local news stories on any topic. All of the mobile stories produced will be reviewed and fact-checked by at least one human editor, the Wikipedia model, to ensure stories are accurate and meet the highest standards of journalism, which is true. People accuracy is essential. If you just assume and say my opinion, it's not going to fly anymore. Any questions? Look at the mainstream news. They're getting their butts whipped in the information war, and we still got to pursue it. And I've done it myself on my live feed podcast doing interviews with people, giving their views, and it's been pretty. Like I said, it is effective, and I'll have to admit it because you got folks downloading it from other countries and they share it with everybody else. So that's what you have to really practice on. I'm still learning this as well, so I boldly admit it. I've been podcasting for 3 years, still learning to this day. 2, distribution. Do more than publish stories on a website and share on Facebook and Twitter. Experiment with push notifications and text messaging. For stories on topics of interest outside of a local market, partner with media outlets to publish and broadcast mobile stories. Be open to collaborate with other media and non-media organizations. Share resources, develop audience, inform and connect communities. 3, monetization. Run experiments until you find a business model that works for your local journalism. Each community is unique. Be patient. Here are some experiments you might want to consider. First is grassroots advertising. Work with local businesses and generate revenue. Through sponsored mobile stories, sponsored media, native advertising, sell ads the old-fashioned way by direct selling. Get to know local business owners, establish relationships, and build trust. Another option is sponsored cost reporting. A local business or individual suggests an idea for a story or series and pays all the reportings and production costs. The company individual pitching the story seek no editorial input, review, or control over the content of the sponsored costs and reporting stories. A third type of experiment is a membership program. Members can pay a monthly or annual fee for access to a special site section called the Story Pitch Room. Here, members can pitch story ideas. People can rate story ideas. When a story generates enough interest, editors can assign it. Fourth type of experiment is syndication. When you partner with outside media outlets to distribute a mobile story produced by your mobile newsrooms, the partner pays a fee to run the story. You become a local wire service. Reserve syndication. Fifth experiment is creating a support system that led people tip, give money to story creators. When a consumer sees a story or media they like, they can give money. Tip your storyteller like you would tip your coffee maker. Tip gets split with story maker and publisher. 4. Measuring success. In order to decide whether an experiment is successful, you need to determine what your definition of success is. We believe these metrics can help measure success. For the production aspect of the project, total number of stories created by the mobile newsroom, total number of attendees at the community workshop, total number of trusted community sources after the workshop, total number of stories created by community members, average engagement time per mobile story. For distribution aspect of the project, total number of stories that ran outside the local publisher site, total number of distribution partners, average number of shares per mobile story published, average number of unique views and page views per story mobile story, most shares for a mobile story, most unique views and page views for a mobile story, best referral source for a mobile story. Monetization aspect of the project, total revenue generated from monetization experiments, total number of sponsors that sponsor the story, total revenue generated from sponsored stories, total number of sponsored bits sold, total revenue generated from sponsored bits, total members added to story pitch room, total revenue generated from membership program, total pitches made in story pitch room, total pitches produced in story pitch room, the number of sponsors for sponsored reporting experiment, total revenue generated from sponsored reporting, total revenue generated from syndication partnerships. On Wednesday, we'll explore the benefits of a mobile first newsroom. Well, I'm gonna have to see. I'll find out. If I do, it'll be on my next episode, hopefully. But yeah, that's how it goes. You got to network and get support from one way or the other. I know a lot of sites like NewsBuds and even Truth Frequency Radio, they have a membership list, and it's very good. You get more stuff, and you're fighting for a good cause. And even myself, I'm not making any money, but you never know because I may have to reconsider, and that happens. So be it. But if people want to sponsor me, hey, I'll give you all the information after the show. But that's how you do it. You gotta be your own person and try to be accurate, observe responsibly, ask honorable questions without using that left right paradigm, trying to be argumentative, have an honorable discussion. Then you get people to talk to you. Don't worry, there's a past I got people trying to say, get this freak out of here. I had that before. So it was on my on one of my episodes when I did the protest. Some people don't like it. They assume, oh yeah, he's a provocateur, which I proved them wrong. You have to, like I say, you got to go out there and be creative. All have great attributes. Everyone can report their stories differently in a unique way. So you know what? If you still want to do these reportings, take the initiative on making this happen. Because there's more of us than them, and we can make plenty of waves and really strengthen the information war. And that is it, my friends. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share this episode throughout your social media networks. And that includes the rest of my archives on my speaker page. If you have any questions, comments, or you want to send me that's interesting that I haven't checked out yet, whatever you do, please address it with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Scene.life, and I'm going to use Minds.com. I think starting by January 2017, I'm gonna crack at that. So the first 9 would be fine. Or you can email me at LokiLuck3, which is LokiLuck3 at gmail.com. All right, that is it for now, my friends. I'd like to thank everyone for listening once again. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.